It's as if we hadn't done this in a couple of weeks. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your forgetful host for tonight, Roddycat, and you can find me at Roddycat on Twitter and the Instagrams. You can also find me at News Need. You can also find me at CB Caps on Instagram, News Needs Reddit, and places like that. And with me tonight, the man, the mellow, the smooth kind of fella, always repping the Brooklynites, one Agent_70.
What's up, everybody?
Okay. And you muted your own applause. You can find him at Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. And folks are not with us tonight. PCN_Dirt, who you can find on Twitter at PCN_Dirt. Also Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com. I Need Comics.com, which is the umbrella, one of the umbrella's sites of the Pop Culture Network. And as we do whatever that, Bite, whenever that happens to come across.
At least we have a name for it now.
They do have a name for it now, and we're not talking about the Apple-focused computer magazine from back in the day. So, and also not with us tonight, Tim, DOGG98, the Osiris of this ish. You can find him at that, or the Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, the KLIQ Nation on Twitter, that's the KLIQ NATION, CB Cron on Twitter, thekliqnation.com, and of course, Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off. And you can find this here podcast on the CSPN.us. I keep wanting to say the phrase that pays. CSPN.us.
Do it today.
Exactly. You'll be joining us soon. All of that. Along with a bunch of other great shows. You know, try to dap ourselves up if they won't. But you can also find us at Apple Podcasts, aka iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and of course the Cole Slither Podcast SoundCloud page. Before we start off, well, a couple of things we want to mention. First of all, condolences to the families of John Singleton, Peter Mayhew, who both have passed away this week. We will be getting into that in the news later on.
Yes, we will.
And also the fact that Free Comic Book Day is upon us in a couple of days. So go to your local shop. We'll be talking about this a little bit more probably at the end of the show. But go to your local comic book shop. You know, go buy some stuff. Don't just pick up the freebies and dip. You know.
Yeah, that's not cool. That happens way too much.
Exactly, because those shops have to pay for all of that stuff, and you just coming in and getting stuff and leaving. That's not cool. You know, browse around, get a toy, get some books. You know, making a fair out of it.
Right, and we're obviously going to talk more about this later on, but you should definitely take advantage of the fact that many stores are running sales in conjunction with Free Comic Book Day. So if there is the opportunity to take advantage of 10, 20, 30, 40, or even 50% off, definitely take advantage of that.
I thought you were going into the Red Baron song, the Snoopy and the Red Baron song, but okay. But yes, absolutely. And also that day is going to be chock full of things because it's also Star Wars Day because it's May the 4th.
Right.
So that's going to be chock full of things one way or the other. So, but we wanted to get that out of the way. And also the last bit of information, we will be talking about this later on, but Avengers Endgame has happened, and we plan on doing a Treasury edition on it in a couple of days, I would suppose, from this recording.
Right. So, stay on the lookout. Stay tuned to our social media feeds that Roddycat listed earlier. Make sure to stay on top of that because we will be notifying everyone about our upcoming Treasury Edition show so that we can break down what we thought of the culmination of 22 films, Avengers Endgame.
Yes, indubitably. So with that all out of the way,
we got 2 weeks of books to cover.
Yes, we do, and we're going to try to roll through these fairly quickly, or at least quickly enough for us when I'm at the head. Anyway, first we're going to start off with Heroes in Crisis number 8.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are starting with something that I don't think any of us had very positive views on. So, anyone who has been keeping up with Heroes in Crisis will know that there is a mystery at abounding at Sanctuary, where heroes and villains are essentially undergoing counseling for issues related to mental health. And we find out in this issue, all in one fell swoop, exactly who is allegedly behind this, and how that was all executed and pulled off. So I will ring the spoiler bell, because even though it's a week old, there's still people out there who aren't quite up to date. So I'm going to ring it.
Yeah, despite the news. So one of the victims of one of the more notable victims is the one that did it. That's a head scratcher in itself. If you've been reading, well, not if you've been reading, because if you've been reading, you know what the deal is on it. But yeah, so one Wallace West, aka the OG Wallace West, not the new Teen Flash kid, is the one that did it.
Right, and there's an entire half issue describing exactly how, very, very no, what I was going to say is very unfortunately, I hate making the Kevin Spacey reference, but Kevin Spacey in Seven.
Oh God, yeah,
kind of going through the blow by blow of all of the steps in the crimes.
I totally forgot that. Wait, I totally forgot he was in Seven. I was thinking, when you said Kevin Spacey, I was thinking Usual Suspects.
That's not a bad. I was about to say, but I'm thinking more along the lines of describing the steps.
Sure.
But they both work.
Yeah. So regardless, so it's half the book was basically the explanation on the thing, which makes sense, but still doesn't make any sense. if we're honest about it, because it's like, okay, we got that he did this, we got that, I guess we got the kind of why, but that's still the puzzling part about it.
Right. I think it's the why that is troubling to many. Forget even the longtime readers. I think even readers who are mildly familiar or in passing familiar with Wally West.
Right.
None of this rings true.
And we will talk about later, quote unquote, fans. So I know for a lot of people, Wally West is their Flash.
Right.
And so they are very precious about him.
Right. There's an entire generation,
yes.
Even 2 generations, because based on the timing of Wally's emergence as the primary Flash and his star role in the Justice League cartoons.
Right. So so that whole thing is not sitting right with some people. Again, we will talk about that later in the news.
Sure.
It's a bit of a kerfuffle, stupidly, but yeah. So I don't know. We still got 2 more issues to go. We still have 2 more issues to go, because I think he did get a 10th one, and maybe there's going to be some more explanation or more additional explanations of how maybe there's somebody else behind the scenes that's controlling this. Maybe this is going to lead into some of the other stuff that's going on around around the DC universe. But yeah, that book was kind of weird.
Right. And what's funny is that I actually had stopped buying this early on. Apparently, PC and _Dirt has been buying this, and now it wants to be rid of all his copies. He is not happy with the turn of events in this in the story. And what say you, Roddy Cat?
I bought the first issue, and that was pretty much all I was going to do anyway. Because
Right.
if anything, it was going to be a collector's item.
Understood.
Although I don't know, I figured depending on how it played out, I was probably going to go back and get the rest of it if it had kept that same energy up, which kind
The
of
energy of the mystery, right?
yeah. Which I don't see that happening.
Right.
But I mean, like I said, it's there is some part of it that's still weirdly compelling about it because like there has to be more to it than just this, and it's going to be really sad if and or when we found out that's not the case. And at the end of the year, should we bring this up and have to look back on this for that? That's going to be an interesting conversation. But until then, let's move on.
I mean, ultimately, we have 5 days. We have 5 days in the story time to figure out what's happened. That's what Wally kind of finishes off the book with. We have another week or two, because this has been coming out relatively regularly. So
I thought so, but it feels like it's been a month since the last one came out, and maybe I'm wrong about that. It just feels that way, though.
Right. I mean, we would just have to check the solicitation schedule for the next few weeks just to make sure. But in any event, it seems like this is moving along. We're finally getting to a conclusion, unlike Doomsday Clock. Oh no!
And might end up just as dumb. Well, just as dumb. I don't know. I haven't been reading Doomsday Clock, so I don't know.
So, moving on to our next book from last week.
Yes. We already pretty much said what he said. Well, since we both read a couple of books at the ready, let's go to Avengers.
Sure. It's an interesting book because Avengers number 18 picks up as War of the Realms is really starting to get into gear.
Yeah.
What we have is the Squadron Supreme taking center stage, and they've been laying low for some time since Marvel now tried to bring the characters into the Marvel universe proper with a few solo books. They all went away. All those solo books went away. Yep. But it's nice to see that Jason Aaron has set them all the characters up with backstories and brings them into a fully formed team, which they were not, because if for those of you who do not remember, these squadron members are brought from different Earths, so they are not necessarily right. They don't necessarily know how to work with each other, or at least with these versions of each other.
Right. So they were from the same place, but then things happened, and then Secret Wars happened.
Right. So with all that said, it's nice that they've had a little bit of a break. Jason Aaron really sets up the characters with very brief, but very solid backstories. These backstories may only be 6 panels worth, but it's enough.
Hyperion still Superman. The Power Princess is still one of them, Big Barter.
Right, and so on and so forth.
And so on and so on, yeah.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, you have them acclimated to this particular Earth, and you bring them forward as a fully formed team under the leadership of Say It Ain't So.
Yes.
Yes.
Philip Coulson. I was about to say Philip J, but I don't even know if that's his real middle name or not.
Phil Coulson.
And speaking of Mr. Coulson, who, as one knows from the MCU, has been brought back from the dead.
Right.
Actually had been brought back from the dead in the comics again.
Right. And there's a big bad behind Agent Phil Coulson's most recent resurrection.
Yes, and the big bad who's been less than big bad, but has been around pretty frequently in the last couple of months.
Right. He's definitely had an enhanced profile. I will mildly spoil it. I did ring the bell.
It's been a week, yeah.
No, but I did ring the bell. I'll ring the bell again. Just by saying that this is Phil Coulson's version of Brand New Day. And
oh God.
So you kind of understand who is behind this particular resurrection. And I think Jason Aaron's continuing to play on some supernatural story notes in his Avengers run up to this point.
Right. So yeah. So if you didn't get it, it's Mephisto. But who's been in Champions and been in Damnation, and he's been around a good bit. In fact, I think up until this week's issues of Champions, he was kind of
their big bad.
Yeah, or behind the scenes of that one also, basically. So yeah, when I'm sure, and that's not even dealt with yet. So he will be around for a minute. So go figure. And yeah, so they had their nice little dinner talk, and the fun thing about it is I saw that part and I was like, okay, they made a deal with each other. Then I thought about it, was like, okay, and then I saw the article, was like, well, guess who brought him back? And I was like, okay, that I didn't even put that part together. The fact that Mephisto brought him back. Spoiler. So
we rang the bell.
Yeah, we just know that, hey, somehow Coulson, who most recently died in Secret Empire, is back again, and with the Squadron Supreme at the ready, and apparently some powers of his own, some Jedi mind tricks of his own, which would make sense as to why Mephisto's involved, because he kind of enhanced old Coulson on the way out. So hey, it is what it is. It was a pretty decent issue, though, I guess.
Alrighty. And so you have one more book to throw out there before we rapid fire. Before we move on to this week's books, that is.
Actually, I want to call a slight audible, because there's one from last week that's going to lead into a book from this week. But sure. I want to get that one last.
Okay.
But I do want to get in, unless you were saving this for rapid fire, FF.
No. Quite all right. Go ahead.
Okay. Fantastic Four #9. Which is a book we both read. I would dare say it was a fantastic book. No pun intended. But it was, so after what happened, and it was kind of brief, but after what happened after last issue, with Sue laying Doom all out to bear in front of live cameras, she continues to teach that little lesson and pretty much shows Doom why he screwed up by capturing them the way he did. And in perfect fashion, the team escapes, because it was all kind of laid out. And all the while, I like when Sue's like, it's like, I'm the sister of Johnny Storm, the biggest troll I know. So I learned some things from him. And then there's a whole big lessons about, well, we learn from each other because we're family. And then they proceed to break out, one by one, and then proceed to pretty much undo everything Doom did leading up to their capture, including setting free one Galactus,
right?
Who just happened to saunter his way on off. I'm like, all right, I'm leaving. So, and they even left Doom with a nice little parting gift when on their exit.
Right, there's some supernatural. Right, there's some supernatural stuff going on in this book too. Just a couple of quick points. I called what Sue did to Doom the ultimate embarrassment, and I understand. Right, I understand people had their issues with Slot's run up until this point. It may not have been moving along at a crisp pace, but I thought that this was one of the most novel things that any writer had come up with in terms of taking a real shot at Dr. Doom. And I thought, especially in this day and age of video and social media, something like that would be one of the most damaging shots that any of these heroes could take at Doom.
Even taking some social media touches
Exactly.
that exposure. So
Exactly, and there's a little bit of magic involved in Arizona where Franklin runs across some some young lady who seems to be hot for him, but apparently is not a fan of White Wingfoot playing babysitter, and all of a sudden is sicking little monstrosities after them.
Yes, and which which, as Agent 70 said, gets used in the end of dealing with Doom.
Exactly.
So, and I suspect there's probably, I'm hoping or suspecting that we're going to come back to that, because you can't just leave it out there like that. And just
right, there's more to that. Right, that's just the tease. That's just the beginning of the story, or at least the tease of a story.
In fact, I think solicitors may have buried out that much as far as like June or July. I can't remember, but that's at least a good month away. Regardless, yeah, Fantasy Four #9 was pretty great.
All right.
That being the case, we will get to a couple of books from. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. We will get to the last book from last week, which we will get into the books for this week. Amazing Spider-Man 20.
Sure. So in Amazing 20, we catch up with the folks who are stuck under the bubble in Central Park, in the midst of the hunting grounds. Black Ant's feeling the sting. Ooh, tough pun. Of the Taskmaster's betrayal. Meanwhile, the Lizard's flimsy plan to infiltrate Central Park and the hunting grounds works. We find out that something's actually wrong with Kraven. There may be something wrong underneath the very stern exterior of one Sergei Kravinoff.
Well, that is one perception of it by his son, we think, and it still might be true, but apparently Kraven was playing a long game that he didn't want to let his son in on, which probably wouldn't have worked. I mean, wouldn't have been any better anyway, given the way his son's pretty bloodthirsty.
Right.
So, and we could even see, I think it was in this issue where Kraven was kind of holding himself back from any kind of action.
Right. He's still observing.
When the son was coming at him. So,
right. So we're still along for the ride on part of the Black Cat's hero journey, as she's doing her best to protect little Billy Connors.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out in this issue a twist to Kraven's plans for the Rich Hunters that you knew Kraven hated, and we find out more about that in both this and this week's number 20.hu.
Yeah, which we can go ahead and get into right now. Amazing Spider-Man 20.hu, which I'm still going to say I'm not really a fan of them breaking it up like this, because this totally could have gone in a just a whatever issue. But hey, you know what?
Just the regular numbering.
And I get it, because they basically, these HU issues have been kind of separating, getting into side stories as they sometimes explaining how the last issue got to where it is now, because some of those things that came out or happened in the last issue get explained out in these HU issues and or the characters involved. Right. Which, by the way, I totally forgot that Eric Grady was Black Ant.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's been going on since what was it, Secret Avengers, like that run of Secret Avengers when he finally went rogue.
Right. Yeah, I was like, I totally forgot about that. I was like, jeez, because I was like, who is this Black Ant person? Then I was like, oh, then I looked it up and like, okay, that's him. Anyway, yeah. So that was like, I thought he was dead for real, but then as I looked it up, I was like, nah, he's back and did that and whatever. Some people don't know who he is. He's basically the third Ant-Man, and I would say he's the opposite of Scott. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Just so that's pretty much how that bore out. Anyway, 20th HU, we get so we get basically a couple of things happen. We found out the other part of Kraven's plan and where Vulture is involved with it, through Arcade's and Vulture's meeting together, and we also, in just in the short straw, find out why there's so many vermin.
Right, that's something that popped up at the end of Spider-Man number 20.
Right.
So we get more explanation here in this .hu issue.
And so the crux of it was basically Arcade and Craven making a kind of a pawn out of Vulture in a way, which pretty much sees the other part of Craven's plan. But while making Vulture thinking all that. Actually, I take it back. He kind of Arcade kind of sort of lays it out for him. He didn't tell him. He told him to pretty much the good parts of it, or the gist of it. So it's not like he's planning for Bond, but he's just like, hey, here you go, use this, get the upper hand, do what you got to do.
Right, but he is also playing a part in Craven's overall plan as a pawn, because Craven, as we mentioned earlier, is not a fan of these fat cats who pretend to be killers on weekends when they go hunting. So he is looking to take them out as well, and there's a twist involved in this story to this point that explains that. We also find out that the threat of vermin has been multiplied as vermin, right? As vermin are wont to do.
Indeed. So, and if historically, actually, and again, the Arcade in the form was like, yes, this is a part of the theory. Basically, it calls back to Craven's last hunt, and it was like, yeah, I know that's part of a thing. So. So what any good sequel does? Multiply the action.
Exactly.
That's why we now have it's like it was almost like he's just breaking the fourth wall while he's doing this. It's like, okay, yeah, we get it. It's good. It's pretty good. So yeah, we got multiple vermin running around, and as the event of 20 proper, they're going after Spidey. So we will see in the next issue how that plays out.
Yep. All right, so now that we've moved on to this week, how about we talk about the big event book of the week, and that's War of the Realms number 3.
Yes. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This is potential click of the week.
Nice. So again, this event is full of fun moments, full of fun character interactions. This one actually does an excellent job of teasing what's happening in the tie-in issues that are going to be released, that are being released.
Thank you.
Concurrently,
right?
With there's one currently released, and there's future ones coming out in the upcoming weeks.
And one that has already been released, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, there's one this week.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I mean like one. Well, no, I was thinking it was also calling back to one that's already been released, like last week or something.
What we're referring to are these Strike Force issues,
right? I know that's
one specifically is is out this week, and of course there are also other comics that are being teased as being parts of the overall crossover, and the tie-ins that are happening within the respective titles are also teased in this book. For example, the next FF issue is going to tie directly into War of the Realms, and there's a page in this book that specifically cites the Fantastic Four as the last standing defenders of New York City.
Except that it's not entirely true.
Well, because the X-Men are in Queens,
right?
So, but in any event, we actually find out what happens to Thor to Thor in this. Yeah, and there's some great pages that are done by Russell Dauterman, laid out by Russell Dauterman, describing the mission that Cap, basically the New Avengers, they're on a mission to. When I say New Avengers, I'm talking about Bendis' New Avengers, Iron Fist, Spider-Man, Power Man, and Wolverine, and Captain America.
I basically said it was Captain America and the Marvel Knights, which also can still play, because all of those other characters had Marvel Knights books around the time. So,
okay.
But yes, so the New Avengers angle was definitely a thing. Although I don't remember Iron Fist being there that early on when Breakout happened. I thought it was just Luke.
I could be wrong about Iron Fist's
He did come in later. Yeah,
right.
he did. Yeah.
I could be wrong about the timing on that, but I
Yeah.
definitely remember him being part of that New Avengers team.
Right.
But in any event, what we were referring to is Thor sort of needing rescue, but not really. And when we say not really, it's it's because he had kind of let the warrior loose, and it's something that we've seen in Thor comics past. It's in the X-Men. It's something that we always knew to be the Berserker Rage or Berserker Barrage if you played Marvel vs. Capcom or X-Men Capcom games.
Which he gets called out, sort of.
Right. So we have Thor kind of losing his blank and taking out Frost Giants, and it's up to this Captain America led team to snap him out of it so that he can get back into the fight proper.
Right. And yeah, it's worth noting, like I said, Cap's team and the other teams in the other books, or in a couple of the other books, are being given these missions by Freya.
Right.
Who at the start of this is talking to Cap in the Avengers Armory, because of course they have one, including where there's a couple of hammers. I'm like, wait, where did these extra hammers come from? But I thought about it, like, yeah, I forgot he had a couple of hammers, because when we catch Thor later on, he has less of a hammer.
Right. And obviously if you're behind on reading Thor, you know that he's had multiple hammers constructed, because none of them are as good as Mjolnir. So
right,
he's got to have a couple of spares. But Cap gets Yarnbjorn, the axe, the celestial cutting axe.
So we know we're going to get that next issue.
Right. And what's kind of cool in this is that there is an appearance by the Black Knight and his ebony blade, and that actually coming into play, and the magic behind that weapon coming into play. That's actually all the swords and sorcery stuff is really coming to the forefront in this, and it's kind of funny. I know that Jason Aaron, I believe, either tweeted or Instagram something today or yesterday about all the people who are talking about the most recent episode of Game of Thrones and Endgame having come out this past weekend, basically coming out all at once. And I wonder if there's a title that kind of blends that all together. And he's obviously making a self-reference to War of the Realms. So I kind of get a kick out of that. That's pretty funny.
That's cool. Yeah. I think I have in my notes, as a matter of fact, I do. It was like, yeah, Malekith gets the ebony blade, proving how useless Dane Whitman is.
Yeah.
Which, not his fault. Well, it is kind of his fault, but it's not his fault.
It's kind of. I was about to say it's kind of tough, because Malekith is obviously the big bad in this story, and he's proven himself to be a pretty formidable bad guy.
Right. And the group that the Black Knight is with, which I almost forgot about that happened.
Right.
Yeah. Not exactly a bunch of heavy hitters on that team. So the European front was kind of lacking.
Right.
Except for one who ended up showing up later, who's going to be in another tie-in book with Carol's group. So,
well, he's there. You see him there, actually. Right.
Yeah.
So,
and then there's a Tauntaun reference, which I was like, pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, this was a pretty great issue. This event is still kind of hitting on all cylinders so far.
Mm-hmm.
Even some of the side stuff, which I guess if we want to, we can get into the other one that came out this week. There's some pretty decent things about it. I don't want to go so far as to say that you might need to read all of them to get the gist of everything, because you kind of don't, but you kind of probably would want to if you want to.
What I was going to say is that at least of the tie-ins that I've seen so far, they actually do a pretty good job of making the story fuller.
Yeah. Like basically everything that kind of comes out of the main book properly, like Strike Force this week and not X-Men, but I think it was one from last week. Regardless.
Well, the X-Men one. The X-Men one actually did a good job too with regards to what was going on with the Valkyrie.
Well, yeah, sort of. Yeah. So, and I'm assuming as Guardians of the Galaxy is going to, whenever that book comes out again, that's gonna deal with a little bit more of that. And
right.
We still need the whole Jane Foster thing is going to come out at some point.
Right. I mean, this is just that big an event. It's that broad and widespread that we are going to actually get a few tie-in issues that really help out the story.
Yeah.
Really flesh it out, make it more full, as I said earlier. So
pretty much everything that is directly flowing out of the main book is definitely the case. But even some of the side stuff that's don't, like another book that comes out this week, is still coming off of that pretty nicely.
Right. So what else do you want to talk about this week?
So we want to get to the other
War of the Realms?
Yeah. Did you read that?
Yeah, the Strike Force book.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we're talking about War of the Realms, Strike Force. What is the full name of it?
The Dark Elf Realm.
Thank you.
In Svartalfheim.
Yes. So yeah, like I said, coming out of War of the Realms 3, which they believe, pretty certain they do say, like, yeah, you might want to read the first 3 issues of War of the Realm before you hit this one. Makes sense because it is a direct tie coming out of that. So this is basically the team that Freya takes to take care of the to get rid of the Black Bifrost.
Right.
Which Malekith controls.
Right. Just have to do a quick note. This issue is written by Brian Hill, former guest of the show, and has bang up art by Lionel Francis Yu, and
that art is so great.
Yeah. Right, and his general crew of fellow artists.
So yeah, definitely. So Brian Hill, been on the show before, so big ups to him. And yeah, he and you did a pretty good job on this one. So like I said, we start off by seeing the recruitment of the team, including a test by Freya, which I'm like, don't let Freya go anywhere because she's awesome. But it sounds like there's other plans for Freya going forward. Again, we see a little bit of Strike Force coming in War of the Realms. So it cuts from that to what shows up to what happens in War of the Realm number 3, and then basically continues on in this issue with so what happened was they go out to Black Bifrost, they get there, and then the regular Bifrost gets destroyed by an ambush, in the main issue, which leads Freya to have to change plans because if they don't have a Bifrost, they can't get back, and that leads Freya to be like, well, I gotta hold this down until everybody's done, and then her team decides to stay with her, and that pretty much rolls this book. So.
Right, and there's a little bit of there's some conversations between the Punisher and Freya that are pretty entertaining.
Foreshadowing, but
it's definitely that, and definitely a little bit of a little bit of a character study of Frank Castle from the point of view of an Asgardian goddess who's like, why doesn't everybody like you? Oh, now I understand.
Right. What? In true fashion, she was like, hey, you have Asgardian's respect, or the respect of Asgardians, and Frank's like, huh, okay. So it's still weird that he is here and that is the case, but I guess if anybody was to understand how a war is going to roll out, it would be him.
Right. And what's funny is that if you were not all that familiar with Freya before, and if all you knew about Freya was maybe what you'd seen in the movies and maybe what you saw in Endgame,
right?
You might, part of that knowledge actually plays into what may be happening to the character here in these books as War of the Realms kind of marches on.
Right, because there's more here, and in fact, in the main book, that's between this book and the main issues. There's been more told, about Freya's, past and background, basically, and her upbringing in a sorts.
Right.
So we shall see how that plays out as things go by.
Alrighty.
So with that, and actually, well, we already talked about that. So HU Water Realms, Room to Realms 3. If you got any more you want to, got one more you want to talk about?
Nah, I'm ready to spin it up because I know that we have to get through our books. We have to get through PCN_Dirt's books. There's not much to say about one of the books that it seems like all three of us read this week.
Oh, I totally forgot about that one. I was going to read the one that you and Dirt read.
Right.
I had tended to get that around to it. Spin it up. Let's do it.
Spinning.
All right, rapid fire, folks. We're basically finishing up the rest of the books from last weekend, this week, all in succession.
There we go.
Hit it.
Alrighty, so I believe you read Doctor Strange as well, right?
That's correct.
All right, so my thoughts on this is that it's still wild to me to think that this is the first time that Galactus is fed on magical planets and beings. It's interesting to see how Doctor Strange is walking in the Silver Surfer shoes for a while, looking for a planet upon which Galactus may feed.
But hasn't been anointed with power cosmic, so
right.
So it's going to be temporary, and the alliances that have come up with in the wake of this, or that we find out about, I should say, because he runs and she's come to find out she's allied with some folks that not on the good list.
Exactly. Spoiler, real quick.
Yes. So
what Roddy Cat is referring to is the reappearance of Clea.
Yeah. And
Umar.
Yes.
So, and what's funny is that Clea had appeared in the Magical Accountant story, correct? Not too many issues ago?
That is correct. And also, previous volumes.
Right. No, but very recently very recently in the Magical Accountant storyline, which is only a few issues back. So it's not a big surprise to see her come back. But since we knew she was coming, this is the story in which they decided to have her come up and come to the forefront. That's it for my books for last week. For this week, I only have Savage Avengers #1. I know that PCN_Dirt read this as well. We now know.
Read this.
I'm sorry.
Despite what y'all said, I still want to read this.
It's a #1. It's worth at least perusing. My view on it is that we finally know what Conan's up to in the wake of Avengers: No Road Home. It's funny to see, and this is again harkening back to what I said earlier. It's funny to see the swords and sorcery come back to the Marvel U, first in War of the Realms, and now with Conan in the Marvel U proper.
Right.
PCN_Dirt did not have very pleasant things to say about this, but I understood where he was coming from because he basically explained it as it's mostly filler of a Conan Wolverine fight that should have been one page in a bigger story. I definitely understand that because there is the element of good guys fighting it out and then learning that they should be teaming up.
Right.
And finally,
which has kind of happened anyway, especially with Conan. But
sure. And finally, for my rapid fire books for these past 2 weeks, Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider #8. Yes, thank God for Tak Miyazawa. He's killing the art on this book right now. I'm so happy to see it.
One of my faves.
The story is really a great twist on what we know about Peter's problems with the Venom symbiote way back before he got Reed Richards to zap it off him. There's an interesting twist cliffhanger ending to this issue. So if you are not up on Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider, this is an okay issue to pick up as your first issue, but I think it's more helpful to go back maybe 2 or 3 and really pick it up post Spider-Geddon. The Spider-Geddon issues are a little on the tough side. If you're looking to jump in on the character, but If you are looking to jump onto this series, you could probably jump on with starting with issue 4, or maybe even 5 or 6, and we're only up to number 8. So this is definitely a good read. This is a fun read, and it's looking really good with Taka Miyazawa on art.
Yes. All right, cool. So we can do Dirt's really quick because he doesn't really have that many more either. In fact,
you want to do this week's? I'll do next week's. I mean, you want to do last week's? I'll do this week's.
Actually, I probably should do this week's because we have one in common.
Alrighty, so PCN_Dirt's rapid fire reviews for last week of April 25th. Silencer number 16. After learning that she came from a lab, Silencer allowed Talia al Ghul to bring her back into Leviathan in order to keep Silencer's family safe. Now that her family is facing a direct threat, Silencer heads back home. It ends on a cliffhanger, but what a good one. He's dying to read the next issue. We talked about Heroes in Crisis number 8. Action Comics number 1010. He is not so keen on this book. Superman is being played as undercover as a spy. Surely Bendis hasn't run out of real Superman stories already. And finally, Terrifics number 15. He actually has it as a potential click of the week. Fun and silly and Silver Agey with the same Silver Age faults. A giant monster right next to the research building. If you can get past that, it's a good time.
And continuing on to this week, 5/2/19. Dang it, why did I get this one? Invasion from Planet WrestleTopia, which
you asked for it.
I did. Which I think we do have some news on later on in the show. What happens to a self-proclaimed champion of the galaxy when the galaxy comes knocking? Sci-fi freaks and journeymen will enjoy this one. So, all right, cool. Next up, let's see, Batman 70. It says sucks, and I've envisioned the critics doing it sucks. He said, if he had screamed "I am Bane" during the whole issue, I would have thought it was a reprint. Okay. And then Deceased number 1, which is the book he and I both read. He said, moderate sex, but only because this Halloween Elseworlds is out in May and not labeled as the Elseworlds, which is the other part is actually true. And I will add and say that, so it's basically DC hidden from Marvel's playbook with specifically Marvel's zombies. And the fact that they ginned up their own reason to have Marvel zombies, and the one person you would think that could have cleaned this up fairly decent gets taken out first. So, which tends to happen in these stories. It's a thing. I don't know. I kind of enjoyed it, but at the same time, it's like, all right. And I don't care for zombies in the first place. Next up, Marvel Tales Avengers number 1, which some of these I've been meaning to read but haven't. He says it's a potential click of the week. These stories are great because they are reprints of actually good stories from the past. That's his, yeah. And last but not least for him is Savage Hope, which you've already taken care of. For myself, we don't have anything with him, but let's see. Avengers Edge of Infinity number 1. So this is basically, I basically felt like this was an issue that should have had a sponsored vehicle attached to it, like a BMW or something, because it kind of read like one of those.
Okay.
But it was basically it's kind of almost like a Marvel Tales book, actually, in that, and it came off of another book that I didn't read, apparently, where MODOK has some shards of the Cosmic Cube and trying to use them to take over the world by bringing the moon in closer or something like that. I totally forgot, but it's basically some old school issues side continuity adventure, as I said in my notes. That was written by Ralph Macchio, so go figure. Dial H for Hero number 2. So I basically said more like Dial D for Journey to the West Dragon Ball, because it definitely have some shades of some manga inspirations in it with some of the stuff. So Miguel and this other girl he's with was still on the run, and he basically got rid of the H dial. Somebody else found it and turned into another hero or something from the past. Miguel gets back from him, and then they both turn into manga, pretty popular manga or / anime figures. So Sam Humphries kind of having fun with it, as he tends to do with books like this. Here's Black Panther number 11. This is my last one for last week. Did you read this one?
I did.
Okay. I don't know if you have anything more to add to it, but basically this is where we start to get the turn. I think we're starting to get into the end of Empire Strikes Back. Well, I guess we can kind of starting to get into Return of the Jedi with this, because Bast comes along and kind of gives her plan. We found out that Eden has his memories back, and we found out what his role in it. And at the end of this book, we found out that that T'Challa gets his memories back. So going into next issue, we shall see the Endgame. Haha. For this week, Young Justice number 5. I'm still kind of sort of liking this book, actually. But so the gang is attempting to escape Gem World when suddenly Zatanna, they flash back to a couple of days ago where Zatanna shows Tim, basically breaks a lock on his brain that shows him his, I want to say pre-rebirth team. Well, so basically the first version of Young Justice, like he sees flashes of all that in his other life he had with the team and all that kind of stuff, which basically leads him to to the first issue of this book where he's seeking out folks. And yeah, pretty good. So there was a reference to a Doc Samson in this book. I'm like, that's another universe, but okay, we're gonna let it roll. Anyway, Justice League number 23. So the League got caught by alternate dimension Lois Lane, and they're trying to get out from that, which they do with the help of the quote unquote son of Martian Manhunter and Hawk Girl. Meanwhile, Batman is being Batman and was being confronted with a choice by the World Forger. I believe that's what his name is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yeah, I read this. I didn't feel strongly enough about it to write notes on.
I mean, it was like, it's kind of hard to come out after that last issue that pretty much like bang, 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 just hit a whole lot of beats.
Right.
So coming after that one, yeah, I can understand that one. But and Superman is trying to get out of his imprisonment, which thanks to Batman might not happen. But yeah, that pretty much was. I also was asked to is because there was some references in here that made me think of Heroes in Crisis, and I'm like, I'm wondering if that has something to do with that, but we don't know. Deathstroke number 43. This is coming to the end of the Terminus Terminus Agenda, whatever they call that, the thing. Basically, at the events of the last Teen Titans book, all of the villains that were being held in Robin's, aka Damian's prison, are let loose, and they're trying to get out of Mercy Hall, which doesn't quite succeed, but through some effort of Deathstroke, sorta, and the Teen Titans. And all I'm going to say is Slade used to be an adventurer before he took an arrow to the
Mm-hmm.
and not the body part that you're thinking it is. So that's going to be continued in the next Teen Titans issue, and maybe the end of Deathstroke as a book. We don't know. That's probably spoiling a lot. Whatever. And let's see. I believe that is. Oh no, that is not it, because Champions number 5 is my last book for this week. And this is kind of what we was waiting on. I think you read this also, did you not?
I did.
Yes. So I was kind of looking forward to this book, to see the fact that Old Scott is back and found a team, and they did it in an interesting way. So the team's basically been helping out around the world, and they have a teleporter, and apparently they found out that the X-Men needed some help who were in Queens, and so they go over there, and And then Scott finds out that the champions are a thing, and he teleports back with them because they needed help. And they clean up the fight there, with Scott immediately taking lead, as he tends to do in situations. But Miss Marvel also gets a hand, and he also kind of gives a little pep talk to Miss Marvel, and of course he remembers all of the memories of young Scott, and all that gets explained. To which he stays with the champions for, I guess, at least another issue, or while World of Realms is going to happen. So yeah, that was a pretty decent issue for that reason. And that, folks, is the end of the books of the week. We now go into clicks of the week. And since we already have dirt, we can go ahead and say that for last week, Silencer number 16. I'm still slightly surprised that he likes that book, but he's been hot heavy about that one and Terrifics. So I want to catch up on both of those. And his one for this week is Invasion from WrestleTopia number 1. Planet WrestleTopia number 1. No surprise, being a wrestling fan, that he is. I have mine for this week, but I don't have one for the next week. So if you got yours ready,
all right, from last week?
Yes.
From last week, I think I'm going to go with Fantastic Four number 9.
And I
think that's yours.
It is also mine, yes.
And for this week, I'm going to go with War of the Realms number 3.
And funny enough, I just put that in my slot also.
That works.
Yeah, it's because Young Justice was really good this week. But it is what War of the Realms just had a whole lot going for it. And despite the fact that it's an event and was basically tying into all the other mini event books. But hey, it's the main book. It's supposed to do that.
Right, and at the end of the day, this event right now is hitting on all cylinders. Yes. We are definitely on board for the ride.
Yes, that is also true.
There are some events that that we could go over all the events that we've covered in the years that we've been doing this podcast, and there have been some events that we've just sort of been like, all right, when is this over?
Yeah, kind of leaves you wanting.
Right, it's not one of them.
Yes, so far.
We're what, halfway through? It's a 6 issues, right?
No.
8 issues? My understanding is not that long.
You might be right. It might be 6. And given Aaron has done some pretty good stuff on events, whether it's his or as a part of others. So I think we can pretty hold out hope that this is going to sustain his goodness.
Right. I hope so. All righty. Our first ad read of the night. Our first ad read of the night is for Funko. Fun at First Sight. It's your home for exclusive collectibles, such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel, t-shirts, hats, or socks, and brand merchandise such as custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today.
And
now we're going to go into the news.
And we start off as we do every week with the cinematic news. And there's 2 weeks worth of news, so we're going to blow through this slightly quickly. Krypton trailer introduces Lobo, reveals season 2 debut date, which is June 12th. The sci-fi series comes back.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Next up, Catwoman was played by a different actress in the Gotham season finale, which is already aired. My understanding is.
In fact, yeah, you can take the next one also because so the Cameron Bicondova who played Selena Kyle Catwoman, well, Selena Kyle basically through the whole time, is not in the finale and is being taken over by another woman, Lily Simmons.
Yeah, so Lily Simmons as Catwoman was revealed in the season finale, the series finale of Gotham.
Yes, she does not look like young Michelle Pfeiffer as Cameron Bicondova did. But hey, she's got the curly hair. It works for her, I guess. I don't know. Moving right along. Katie Lotz talks filming nerve-wracking Arrowverse sex scene. So basically, they, some of the whatever, I don't know if she's talking about like first season sex scenes or whatever, but she basically is going on to say, it's like, yeah, they always shut down the sets whenever there's a sex scene. Unlike in the crossover. And basically she was like, it's unnerving because they're fretting too much over their comfort as opposed to just letting it happen. So that's kind of was her big thing. So she's comfortable in herself.
Alrighty, next up, James Gunn has targeted newcomer Daniela Melchior as the actor to portray the character Ratcatcher. Okay.
Don't know who that
is.
A
lesser known DC Comics villain, obviously.
Yeah, that's clearly a deep cut. So Side Squad 5 size. Anyway, inside of the Superman Family animated series that almost was. And apparently Newsarama has the article and had to remove some artwork because Warner Brothers like, nah. So really? Yeah, that's what it says here at the top. So yeah, apparently the Vinton Hook, I don't know his name, sorry, shared some artwork from Superman Family, which was an animated series he was pitching to Warner Brothers. He's now working on Young Justice and working on Harley's Quinn, that DC Universe thing that's coming. And he says wanted to bring the Kent Factory to cartoons with a heaping helping of crazy Silver Age stories inspired by comic books of the past. And as you can see here, there's a free comic books that they typed from Art Balthazar and folk. I can't remember the other guy's name. That I guess he was inspired by.
Yeah, it's Franco.
Franco. Yes. So yeah, so apparently we're not getting it though because it's not gonna happen. Next up.
All right, so Princess Leia finds a pint-sized battle partner in the latest Star Wars Galaxy of Adventures short cartoon.
Yeah, so if you know this part about Return of the Jedi, where they were in the Ewok forest and Leia meets Wicket, that's pretty much what this is. Those little things, I like the animation on these things. I haven't watched all of them, but the ones I've seen so far have been pretty decent.
They're fun.
Yeah, definitely. So you should go check them out. They're on the Star Wars Kids YouTube channel. Next up, Lucifer's Saucy Devil walks you through a crash course of the show's first 3 seasons. So apparently, Lucifer, formerly of Fox, now on Netflix, is doing just that, and there's going to be a 4th season that starts on May 8th on Netflix. And they did a little video kind of catching folks up with the show going into the next season. So, okay, good.
Alrighty, I think I'm going to fold the next 2 in together.
Yep.
So, in big news, post Disney and Fox Entertainment merger, Marvel and Hulu have set live-action Ghost Rider and Hellstrom series in motion at Hulu, and apparently Gabriel Luna is going to reprise his role of Robbie Reyes, who, according to the actor, survived the Thanos snap, according to an interview recently.
Right. So
apparently, I did a little bit of reading about this. The Hellstrom series is going to portray Damon and his sister, Anna Hellstrom.
Satana, supposedly.
Right, exactly. Who may or may not be Satana.
Right.
And so that's pretty interesting. And obviously, these are not characters that you would see on a Disney app. Makes sense that they would be on Hulu.
Right. And there's also Lucifer, which is a whole nother sad thing.
Right. So obviously, if Netflix was part of the ownership, if Netflix, if Disney had a greater stake in Netflix, these would be on Netflix, but they're on Hulu now.
Probably, yeah. So there is that. Look forward to that. I know there are some Gabriel Luna / Ghost Rider Robert Reyes fans out there.
Listen, I want to see Ghost Rider done well. So I'm happy to hear about this.
I like how they mentioned the movies, which were not great, which Nicolas Cage did.
We choose not to talk about these things.
Yeah, but historically you got to bring them up.
Right, they do exist.
Yes, but yeah. Next up, Tessa Thompson says Thor 4 is on the table. She basically said that she heard a pitch that was possibly for another Thor movie. And folks, if you know where this is going, you know what we're about to get into. But and I guess this will mark the third time that Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth have played in a movie together, because they're doing Men in Black International coming up, which I kind of want to see, actually.
Well, it's been a while since the last Men in Black, so I think it's time for something fresh for that franchise.
Indeed. So, yeah. Next up.
I think the next story is a little spoilery, and I think I want to save that for our Endgame Treasury Edition.
Well, sure. Okay. Basically, yeah, if you haven't seen Endgame, this is basically talking about Thor's look and
right. So I definitely have, and did this a little bit of inside baseball, ladies and gentlemen, but I circulated an outline of the Treasury Edition episode that I want, an outline of the talking points that I want to discuss, and this is definitely something that is amongst them. So that's why I think it's something I'd like to save. So I'm going to skip that and go to apparently the Avengers Endgame cast played Pictionary somewhere. They played a Pictionary style game. Just tell me it's not Fallon. Anywhere but Fallon. I know that they sang the song on Fallon. Oh, yeah, the next one is Fallon. Screw Fallon.
Yeah, the next one. Yeah. Wow. All right. Hot take. I don't know where this was at, but yeah, but it basically just says that they did it somewhere. So I could click and find out, but we're not going to do that. So if you find that out, you can check it out for yourselves. But yeah, the next one is the Avengers cast sings MCU themed redux of "We Didn't Start the Fire." With some new lyrics, and I think they did do this on
this was on Stupid Fallon.
Why do you hate Fallon? Never mind, we don't have to get into that right now. Anyway, so yeah, that's a fun thing. You can go and check that out at your leisure. Right. So next up,
so this is not really spoiling anything. No. Because this is something that if you I know what this creator looks like, and I still didn't spot it. And I'll stare right at him.
Right. I did spot someone else. I did spot someone else in that same scene.
Right. But that one was easier.
Yeah.
Right. This one was a little tougher. So Thanos creator Jim Starlin shares behind-the-scene pictures of his Avengers Endgame cameo. We're not going to tell you where it is, but I definitely know what it is.
I mean, if you look in the
if you're watching video, Roddy Cat is posting a very spoilery picture of it.
Yes, I just flashed it. Well, and this still wouldn't exactly know the scene, but you get to it, you'll know.
Right. And I remember staring at this particular scene and thinking, am I supposed to know who this is? And I've met Jim Starlin before, and it still didn't register with me.
I mean, it's just like with Captain Marvel, and I think KLIQ was supposed to. And it was like, yeah, it was kind of, there was a lot going on, And they didn't, that one, I don't think they kind of just flashed it. This one, they gave a little bit more of a time. Obviously, for obvious reasons, they give a little more time to it. Well,
right. It played as part of the scene.
Yes.
I remember going nuts for seeing Walt Simonson at the table in Thor, the very first Thor.
Right.
And seeing J. Michael Straczynski in that too.
Pulling
on the hammer. And those are easily some of the best creator cameos in the Marvel movies. This one was just I remember staring at him like, I'm supposed to know who this is.
Right. And see, yeah, exactly. And I don't recall that I knew what Star-Lord looked like until I saw the picture. I was like, oh, okay, that was.
Yeah.
And like Angel 7, I was like, I knew that there must be somebody because they're flashing on them. But
right. And I totally met this guy. I totally met Star-Lord before, and still just totally blanked.
Right.
Anyway,
so next up, we're still on the Avengers Endgame train, but nothing spoiler here. Avengers Endgame star Chris Evans shares heartfelt thank you to fans. Excuse me. So yeah, he took to Twitter to say, some of these thank you Avengers posts are incredibly touching. I feel a deep sense of gratitude today. Thank you Avengers fans. #. So I'm going to take this opportunity to bring up the fact that Chris Evans, Idris Elba, and I did this on Twitter. So if you've seen that already, you already know, and some of you already know this. And so it's Aldana did a DC movie together. Oh, and also Paul Winchester, aka Negan.
they did the Losers.
Thank you. Yeah, so yeah, they did the Losers together, which I am going to revisit sometime this weekend.
It's on cable. I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it.
I've seen it before, but it's been a while, and I ran across it, cleaning up my hard drive, and I ran across it again. I'm like, I'm gonna have to watch this again. So that was fun. Anyway,
next up is a story that we need to update with numbers.
Yeah, basically, this says that record-breaking Avengers Endgame storms to 25 million worldwide, but is now broken a billion.
Yeah, we're at like 1.6, I think, at this point.
Yeah, so it is already hit the $1 billion mark. And they've been running screens, from what I understand, they've been running screens for like 48 hours in some theaters. So yeah, there's been a lot of screens popping around for this movie.
Right, you should be able to catch it if you haven't watched already, and we are judging you if you haven't. But if you have not yet watched Endgame, please try to get out there and watch it this weekend, because I saw something before we got on the show about how the Russos are saying, well, the spoiler ban is going to be lifted on Monday, because if you haven't seen it in the first 2 weekends, that's all.
That's typical. Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah. And I will say that I didn't put them in the lineup because that was way too much to go on, and I may have put one of them in it. But I know there's been I think in the Philippines there was a pirated copy that was shown on TV on cable.
Oh, lame! I did see that. That was so lame.
Yeah, well, I mean, no one would have known. And some guy reportedly got beat up for coming out of the theater and spoiling the movie. So
I beat him up. Good on him for beating him up.
Exactly. So there's been a lot of stories around this movie since it came out, including the numbers we have here. Keep going.
Well, I was about to say, you got next.
Kevin Feige considers Spider-Man Far From Home, not Avengers Endgame, as the end of the MCU's third phase.
Okay.
Yeah.
I read this, so okay.
I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense because given, didn't the last Spider movie come after Infinity War? No, it did not.
No. The last Spider movie came after Civil War.
Right. But same thing applies though, because there was kind of some, not necessarily fallout, but there was, something that came out of the movie before it that played into the Spidey movie. Right. And this is probably going to be somewhat of the same. And boy, do I want to talk about some Avengers Endgame right now. But
exactly. That's why we need to have an actual show dedicated to it. So be on the lookout for our Treasury Edition, ladies and gentlemen.
It's kind of getting a little late, but at the same time, it's still within reason. So we'll get that out of the way in the coming days.
I was about to say, I don't think it's late because I want to give as many people the opportunity to be able to tune in spoiler free.
Sure.
Or at least get in and say, all right, I've had the opportunity to watch it. Thanks for giving me an extra week, giving me the week to watch it.
Yeah. I mean, and granted,
that was wonderful.
All right, next up, Spider-Man Far From Home teases a surprising Mysterio revelation. All right, so we're going to find out that Mysterio has a particular relationship, I think, to Peter Parker in this.
Yeah, according to this,
not going to say more. There's story.
Not really.
We have very different ideas of what's spoilery.
I mean, yeah, just like Budapest.
Exactly.
All right, well, we'll let it go. But basically, yeah, the director came and made a point about the Mysterio revelation. We won't need to necessarily get into it then. But it doesn't seem to be that spoilery. Speaking of, though, new promo art for Spider-Man Far From Home features our best look yet at Spidey's Black 2. And by the way, if you thought we were finished with Endgame, no, we're not. But we'll get to that in a minute. A new piece of promo art has popped up, and as you can see, if you're watching the video, the black suit that has shown up in the last trailer or two gets a little bit more of a look. Sadly, not the symbiote suit.
Ah,
but there's
it's the wrong studio.
Yeah. So anyway,
let's not belabor that point because
Anyway, next up,
the things that Marvel did for money back in the day, right?
Which understandably they didn't know what they were getting into. They didn't know.
Had to because they were underwater.
Yeah.
So apparently a fan has seen the Captain Marvel movie enough times to break a Guinness World Record. A Wisconsin man broke a Guinness World Record by seeing Captain Marvel a staggering number of times.
I'm scared to know what he was doing in said movie while he was watching it, but that's a whole nother story.
He has spent 14,268 minutes watching the film, which is equal to 237.8 hours or 9.9 days. That's 116 viewings. Holy cow, dude.
I'm off of work to see it, and I'm sitting here like, okay, that's your claim to fame, but all right. Hey, good on him, I guess.
All right.
The movie was all right, but okay. Anyway, there was something else I was going to say about that. Well, nothing. Just I know somebody who's seen it like 3 times, and I thought that was crazy.
What's terrible is that we're not really spoiling anything. It's really not necessary to watch Captain Marvel before you go into Endgame.
Well, no, there's a lot of them that is not necessary. Which there's an article about that we'll at least touch on later on. But
what's funny is that what's necessary? Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh, nice segue. Pretty
exactly. Ant-Man and the Wasp really is necessary.
Yeah, basically. But that is not the crux of this story. In that Ant-Man and the Wasp soundtrack to be released on colored vinyl. So as of April 24th, you could have gotten a special release vinyl of the soundtrack from Ant-Man and the Wasp. I would imagine at this point they're probably sold out. Retail at $35, but you can go to mondotees.com, purveyors of all that kind of good stuff, where I got my Luke Cage soundtrack. Yeah, you can go check that out. If it's still around. Like I said, at this point, they may or may not be there. But yeah. Next up.
All right. The Russo brothers have reportedly started developing a Stan Lee documentary. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's great. I believe, and I'm not sure if I'm not sure if I put this in here, but I believe they have come out and said that this is the last Marvel movie that they're going to be doing for a while. Which, no surprise, they go out on a high note. Mm-hmm. Next up, Chris Pratt. And matter of fact, I am going to put the next one. Wait, not the next one. Did I do that one? Maybe I didn't. So Chris Pratt and someone else basically did an illegal Avengers Endgame.
I think it was Elizabeth Olsen.
Yes. I can't remember if I put that one in here or not, but basically they both of them did. So if we do run across that one, we can skip it. So yeah, it was a neat video. It was like, them just kind of standing around and whatnot. But
yeah, lots of green screen, some actors in costume, some not.
Right. Some noticing that they're being filmed and
right, stunt doubles galore.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty cool to see.
Yeah, so that's cool. And then Elizabeth Olsen's work was kind of a similar one.
Yeah, different angle, different scene.
Yeah, different time, I think. Yeah. Right. So that was that. It was cool to see.
Right.
What are you going to fire him now?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, Guardians is still a while away, but obviously he's not spoiling anything by posting that now. So
exactly.
He actually, what's funny is that all of the accidental spoilers aside, or the supposed accidental spoilers aside from like Ruffalo and Tom Holland, these are actually well-intentioned posts that are posted at an appropriate time
Right.
after the release of the movie. It's like, all right, we've had some time to watch it. If you haven't seen anything, it's not really spoiling anything. So,
right.
Anyway, all right. So
that video wasn't gonna show you anything, but a bunch of them just standing around.
Right. So apparently, next up, somebody put together a video clip of every Avengers Endgame trailer scene that actually wasn't in the movie. All the fake outs.
Right. So, which pretty much gives credence to what I told somebody. It was like, okay, yeah, but trailers, don't really always tell what's in the movie because they do, not everything that's in the trailer makes the movie.
Right.
The one part that did kind of make it was slightly altered because it was, I was about to say it. That was a part.
Exactly. Well, what's funny is that now the Russos have gone on the record saying that they do it on purpose.
Right.
Not every director is going to come out and say that, and I don't, and obviously sometimes the people that cut the trailers aren't necessarily the ones cutting the final cut of the movie.
Right.
But in this case, they're absolutely doing it on purpose. They're in on everything.
Right. So I mean, we've seen this in a few different movies, but yeah, we've definitely seen them in these a lot bigger. So I'm like, yeah, which in at least one case is sad because Infinity War, there was a scene in the trailer with Black Panther, the one. Give that man a shield. That didn't make that didn't quite make it like the way
it wasn't the same setting, right? Exactly. Right. It wasn't as dramatic.
So, but yeah. Anyway, so stuff like that happens. But yeah, you can check out this video to see what was cut or what didn't make the cut if you've seen the movie. Like, it's not gonna really do you good if you haven't. So, or maybe it will. Who knows? Next up, Scarlett Johansson may have spoiled Endgame weeks ago. So
yeah, we won't talk too much about it. All we'll say
it's out now, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but all we'll say is that it was part of an interview on Kimmel.
Right. With her and RDJ, Paul Rudd, and Chris Hemsworth. If you've seen it, you've seen the movie, you may know what you're talking about. I haven't seen it. I've seen the movie, but I haven't seen that interview. Next up,
Don Cheadle revealed how he was asked to play War Machine.
Shout out to Tim, our intrepid man in the field.
No kidding. So apparently he revealed that he got the gig as War Machine in the Marvel Cinematic Universe when Feige and Robert Downey Jr. called to offer him the role during his daughter's birthday party.
Yes.
And asked him to promise not to say Maine.
I was going to make a Maine joke, but I'm glad you beat me to it. So yeah, and they kind of not necessarily pressed him, but it was like, hey, Feige was kind of on him for it, and it was like, yeah, he was at his daughter's birthday, and it was like, okay, it'll take a couple hours. And as we know, it clearly happened, so we're all better for it because holy hell. Anyway, no Maine. Captain Marvel star Brie Larson talks all-female Avengers movie, and let's just say that there is
this plays off something that happens.
There is a precedent for why this could be a good idea.
Right.
That is in a certain movie that we're not going to talk about right now.
And also, this is not the first time that this idea has sprung up. The art that they use is from A-Force,
right?
Which is that Secret Wars limited series that further went on to be a kind of a short-lived regular series for a time.
It was good too. Yeah, right. That was I believe that was either Marguerite Bennett or G. Willow Wilson, one or two, or one of them. I think one of them did either.
Right, and I think it was a team up. I think it was a co-writer situation as well at one point. So I want to say Kelly Thompson was in on that, but
yeah, that was the other series. Yeah,
right. So
ultimately, I might have been on that one too. I can't remember, but
right, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So, but in any event, the story is there to be told, and now that the MCU has created a number of female characters to assemble, no pun intended, it's pretty cool that that this is even a possibility at this point.
it'd be interesting if one actually showed up, but we don't get into that right now.
Right, exactly. That is actually literally that's one of the talking points I put into our Endgame Treasury Edition. You know, what's next? As President Bartlett would say, what's next for the MCU?
Exactly. And actually, I would like a She-Hulk movie also.
There you go. So, like I said, President Bartlett.
What's next?
I'll tell you what's next, President Bartlett. Star Trek's Kate Mulgrew. Remember her? Captain Janeway reminds fans that Voyager entered the Endgame 18 years before Avengers and offers tips. So I did not understand what she meant. I did not read.
So the last two-parter, I believe, of Star Trek Voyager was called Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
And spoiler alert for a show that's like 18 years ago, Voyager was lost in the Delta Quadrant, and they got home at the end of that, using various means, including time travel, which is another thing, but we could talk about. So yeah, but anyway, Kate Mulgrew kind of gives some tips to Chris Evans and a couple of people. I thought that was cute, So, because being in a similar but not similar situation. Moving right along. Stop. This is one I'm excited about. I thought I muted this. Star Trek Deep Space Nine documentary, What We Left Behind, trailer, poster, and release date. So yes, there is a documentary on Star Trek Deep Space Nine that is coming out this month. In fact, on the 13th of this month, is when it's going to do a one-day only showing at a number of movie theaters around the country. So if you have a chance to go check that out, and you're a fan, you could be a fan also of Deep Space Nine, like I am. You can go check that out. In fact, I have a link to the page that I need to go get my tickets. So yeah, the film will be in more than 800 movies nationwide, on the May 17th at 7:00 p.m.
It sucks that that's the opening night of John Wick, but most people hopefully will have gone to see it the night before.
Wait, on Monday?
The 17th.
No. Did I say the 17th?
Yeah.
The 13th.
Oh, okay.
The 13th.
There you go. I was going to say, you said the 17th, and I wasn't reading the article, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was looking at it says 2017 up there, and I mixed it up. Sorry. But yeah, Monday the 13th, May 13th at 7:00.
There you go.
Yeah, and it's going to be, like I said, that one day early. And this was the documentary that went through a Indiegogo / Kickstarter type thing situation. So yeah, cool beans. Like I said, check that out.
All right. I think I'm going to squish the next two stories together.
Yes.
Star Wars, Mark Hamill shared a controversial original trilogy reunion image, which was depicting the reunion of Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Leia Organa, and Lando Calrissian that never was.
If you are watching the video, you will see said image.
Right. And Billy D. Williams didn't have too much Colt 45 and responded via Twitter saying that Mark Hamill should be used to getting everyone's knickers in a twist. It's part of your charm. Retweeting Hamill's explanation of the tweet, Hamill joked that instead of posting the photo, he should have just shared spoilers for Avengers Endgame. No, you shouldn't have, Mark Hamill. No, you shouldn't have.
He was joking, though.
I know.
So there are some Star Wars fans that kind of took his image to mean that they took it to where they thought that he was on board with their stupidity on the new ones are not great and that the old ones deserved better type of situation. That's in a nutshell. And so people kind of responded on both ends of that. And it's kind of sad, but he says himself that that wasn't his intention. His intention was that, he just, it was a missed opportunity, and, not saying it wasn't saying anything about the newer movies that he just missed that.
He's technically still a part of.
Exactly.
But anyway, moving on to some sad news.
Yeah, but people are taking things way too stupidly especially about Star Wars. in some would say comics. I'm sure there's a Venn diagram for comics stupidity for folks. Anyway, yes. Next up, sad news. Peter Mayhew, who played Chewbacca, has died today. In fact, as the day of this recording, he was 74.
Yeah, no, they confirmed it. I think he passed away on the 30th. So it's
yeah, that's correct. I'm sorry, you're right. Yeah, he passed away on the 30th, and that was confirmed today. Which this has been a week for people either trying to kill people off or people actually dying, but we will get to that going forth. So yes, so sadly, give out a Chewbacca yell for Peter Mayhew. May he rest in peace. But yeah, the tweet from his family says the family of Peter Mayhew, with deep love and sadness, regrets to share the news that Peter has passed away. He left us the evening of April 30th, 2019, with his family by his side in his North Texas home.
All right. Had you ever met Peter Mayhew before?
I have not. No.
He was gigantic.
Yeah, from what I hear, yeah, but no, I've never been in a place that
like he wasn't athletically built, but if he had been, he definitely would have played ball in the NBA because he was that tall.
Right.
And he was he was definitely a sight to see next to Kenny Baker, who was the original R2D2. And I went to a con in the mid 90s where they both appeared, and it was a pretty remarkable sight.
I bet. So unfortunately, I do not have a Chewbacca yell on my soundboard, so we'll just go ahead and move on and go like, "Oh, that was a terrible one. I can do better than that." Regardless,
I never could. That's fine. Yeah. Alrighty, next up, Marvel Animation VP has his eyes on War of the Realms. So apparently, Court Lane, Marvel's vice president of animation and family entertainment, has a unique insight into the future of Marvel animation, including a current Marvel comic story that could make its way into animation in the near future. No! Well, we don't know if it's how it's going to play out. So
that wasn't for that one, but don't.
Oh, I gotcha. I was about to say, I'm like, I don't know if that's well timed or not.
No, actually, I'm into this. I mean, I think if they do it, they do. I mean, we don't know, still don't know how War of the Realms actually is going to pan out, but nevertheless, that would probably make a pretty decent animated movie.
Yeah, I was about to say I want to hold on to the no for upcoming news stories. So go on, you got next.
Oh wait, I did have.
There you go.
Ooh, okay. Next up, Stargirl, Heroes and True Blood vets join Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So Carolina Hell, Christopher James Baker, and Barry Shabaka Henley have joined the cast of ABC's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for its upcoming 6th season, which I think is its last season and short season at that. I'm hoping that's Wydra, because that would be if not, that's a missed opportunity in itself. So Wydra will play Izel, a mercenary. I guess they're still on space. A mercenary for another galaxy who joined forces with the S.H.I.E.L.D. team in order to survive the perils of space. That's what I said. And Baker is a mysterious assassin from a distant planet named Malachi. And they don't know if it's the same one from The Crossing, that old Avengers arc.
Okay.
The Space Phantom. And an undisclosed role for this other person. And Marcus Benson, who's going to be... Oh, I don't know this dude. I've seen this dude fly. Anyway, he's a brilliant natural science professor named Marcus Benson. That's who...
he played Mr. Willis on The West Wing. But it's like a one-shot episode.
Right. So, yeah, that guy's been around. I've seen him.
Mr. Willis from Ohio.
Yeah.
That's a first season West Wing reference, ladies and gentlemen. So next up.
Matter of fact, you take these two.
So next up, despite the fact that you can't see him, Vin Diesel has confirmed that John Cena is joining Fast and Furious 9 as a new cast member this is where that Darth Vader sound effect really should come in.
Oh, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah, agreed. So yes, apparently Cena's going to be on in Fast and Furious going forward, and apparently there's a Instagram from one Vin Diesel, who Groot, yeah, who basically says, "Thank you, Pablo." That's in reference to Paul Walker. Wait, is this where he says? Oh yeah, the quote here says, "Guys, as you know, I'm always thinking fast and probably furiously, and thinking about the responsibility of making something iconic and deserving of your loyalty." Diesel said. I know this sounds crazy. Yes, it does. But every blue moon, I feel like Pablo up there sends me someone. Right. Another soldier in the fight for truth. Today, someone came by Toretto Gym that speaks to what Pablo would have brought. And then the camera pans to the right to reveal John Cena standing behind Diesel and doing the "you can't see me" thing he's known to do. And this was from an Instagram video that Diesel did recently. So yeah. So we got Cena not only in Suicide Squad, but now in the Fast and Furious franchise. But wait! There could be possibly more.
Right. So, in heartbreaking news, a new report suggests Keanu Reeves has joined the cast of Fast and Furious, presents Hobbs and Shaw in a major role.
Why is this heartbreaking?
Because I want to keep Keanu far away from the soon-to-be train wreck of a series.
Well, I mean, possibly if this report is true, he's already in a train wreck of his own. A good train wreck, mind you, because John Wick being what it is, but nevertheless. Come on.
Right, so according to that hashtag show, Reeves will reportedly play the villain orchestrating the events of the upcoming Hobbs and Shaw spinoff, and has currently unspecified links to main antagonist Brixton, played by Idris Elba.
And wait for it. But you're going to say it.
Whoa.
No. Justice for Han.
What's that?
Justice for Han.
Oh, I'm... God. At the end of the day, it's all justice for Han. This movie can go. It can do a lot of things.
So and sadly we don't release the pre-show stuff, but I will go ahead and say it here, and maybe one day we'll do at least one of them. But I said that maybe Keanu, if this is actually some truth to it, will be playing like Han's brother or something.
Right. Which
kind of doesn't make any sense if he's playing as his role, as his article would say, if he's playing a bad guy. But then again, he still could, because the way this series is going, the bad guys become the good guys, and vice versa, sort of. So yeah, we'll see if all that pans out. Next up, some more sad news in the fact that John Singleton, I guess I actually am tying into Fast and the Furious,
right.
John Singleton of Boys in the Hood and Too Fast, Too Furious fame, and amongst a bunch of other stuff, dies at 51. Now, this is one of the ones for the week that his death was told prematurely. Actually, was the one, I should say. I'll take that back. Actually, no, this is the other one. It was told prematurely on the same day that it actually happened.
Okay. Well, my understanding was that he was in a bad way and he was on life support.
He was, and then later on that afternoon, but they called it that morning while he was still
on life support.
But they pulled the plug later on in the afternoon,
right?
Or later on, yeah. So it was a little premature, but it did actually happen. So it is sad news. But yes, it was finally confirmed that after having a stroke. On April 17th, he was put into the hospital at CSI, and he said his family had a history of hypertension. Folks, get yourself checked out, especially if you're people of color, especially Black people who are known to have hypertension. And I'm probably speaking for myself as well. But get yourself checked out and keep yourself, try to keep yourself as healthy as you can. But yeah, and as you would imagine, there was a bunch of outpouring of condolences to Mr. Singleton's family, and including people going on Twitter, giving their accounts of meeting John Singleton and the lives that he has brought into the forefront of Hollywood, including one Ice Cube for Boys in the Hood, and he's kind of helped launch, if not anything else, like folks like not necessarily launch because he was been around already, but Lawrence Fishburne, like the Ice Cube, a bunch of other people that he's kind of worked with, during this time that have come up through the Hollywood ranks. So he will definitely be missed. So, as we give a moment of silence for that.
Yeah, right. Next up, apparently, Noah Centineo has confirmed he has signed on to play He-Man in Sony's planned Masters of the Universe live-action film.
Yeah, so talk about this
on the worst late-night show with dumb Jimmy Fallon. He was promoting his recent film, Perfect Date.
Do we need to
confirm the casting, which was reported back in March?
How did Fallon hurt you? We need to. Is that going to be the title? No, it's not going to be the title of this. But never.
No, it's reserved to be the title.
Oh Jesus! Anyway, we need to talk about that one. Oh, after this. Next up, okay, I'm sorry that you had to see that, but whatever. Actually, some interesting news that I'm appreciative of. I think it depends on how this plays out. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost developing TV adaptation of Rivers of London. So, Rivers of London is a series of books written by Ben Aronovich. Who's a noted writer. Also, if you're a Doctor Who fan, you will know that name because he's wrote a bunch of Doctor Who stories back in the episodes back in the day. Okay. And his Rivers of London books have been adapted into comic books, which is the other reason why we're talking about it here. But basically, this is about. I know I've talked about this before because I was reading this. So. Anyway, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are apparently making a television adaptation of it. Not totally unlike Dresden Files, I would imagine. Not necessarily the same thing. But anyway, so the story follows police constable Peter Grant as he's recruited to a small branch of the Metropolitan Police after encountering ghosts and becomes a wizard's apprentice, during which he must solve supernatural-driven crimes, including ordinary people being possessed by unknown entity and becoming vicious killers. So yeah, kind of a Dresden Files thing, but kind of not. So Dresden Files was a good show and a series of books. I've only read a couple of them, but there's a similar principle there. So yeah, Aronovich, apparently had deals before to make his books into shows and whatnot, but didn't really trust the vision that other people had, and he trusts Pegg and Frost because they are noteworthy nerds. So hopefully they'll do it right and get the casting right. That's my only thing about this. Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the main character is black, and at least in the comic books he is. I don't know. And they have some like his, I think one of his partners is like a Muslim woman. So okay. That all bears out in the casting. But we shall see.
All right. Next up and last on cinematic news.
Glad you got this one.
I haven't watched it. The Sonic trailer is out, and people are having visceral reactions to it.
So much to the fact that and I didn't put this in the lineup, but apparently there was an article earlier that said that they changed how Sonic looks because people were basically changed to be more like the video game. And people had a problem with his teeth because I guess his teeth look more human than not, as you can see in the video. And I think that's where a lot of people were having some sort of issue.
All right. I mean,
I don't get it, but whatever.
I didn't have a Sega growing up, so I didn't really play Sonic all that often. I played it like here and there. So, I'm not one of those people who are married to a memory of what Sonic should look like.
Sure. Yeah, so as I'm scrolling through this article, you can see there are likenesses of the animated version to the live action version and other versions of it. But we also find out, we also see in this trailer that Jim Carrey is playing Dr. Robotnik. I still haven't seen this trailer yet. I don't know if he's gonna make or break this movie, but I can only imagine he can't do any worse than what's already going on in it. So yeah, but like I said, it has led the company to change up the look because they basically had a little taller head Sonic, and whatever, it doesn't matter. It's still a CGI hedgehog playing in the human world, and Sonic has had some weird histories with humans. So we're going to just move right on past that and get into the comic book news. Exactly. And we're going to start off with what's that? Oh, I thought you said something. Get an exclusive first look. This came out last week at Kamala Khan's new costume, which is going to show up in Magnificent Miss Marvel #5. So we're not there yet.
But we've seen a last page cameo of it. So
exactly. So I know, looks good. I mean, it's not totally different from her old one, but it's
a little streamlined.
Yes, and probably a little bit more to it because it's a more full body look than her old one was, and kind of spacey looking. If you're watching the video right now, you will see it. And her bracelet things are gone, or different at the very least.
Right, definitely different.
Yes, and as you can see the style sheets that came along with making the new suit. Again, like I said, we'll be talking about this again come issue 5. Next up.
So, learn about how Gwen Stacy was saved and married. And married Peter in Marvel's Mexican Amazing Spider-Man title.
So this is
screw Jerry Conway.
So this has come up before like months ago, and I think we may or may not have talked about it then, or I might have had it in the clickbait section. I can't remember, but I'm just bringing this up again just for, and apparently there's a recent article about it for some odd reason. But yeah, so because like I said, this is kind of old news that just happened to come back. But yeah, there's a whole story about in the Mexican version of Spider-Man comics that not only does Gwen Stacy survive that night, but ends up with Peter. No word on what happened to Mary Jane. So go figure. And yes, apparently somebody came across a whole bunch of the strips where they kept it up.
Alrighty.
So yeah, there you go. Next up, speaking of Spidey, Insomniac the developer reveals a Spider-Man PS4 Easter egg no one notices. And if you didn't play on Saturday, didn't play the game on Saturday, you won't notice it. So basically, it has something to do with some NPCs that show up on a particular day of the week, that being Saturday, where there are some Orthodox Jewish pedestrians in the game. So and like it says, you won't see them around town except on a Saturday.
Gosh,
so that's kind of neat though, that they just like because they've put some there's been some interesting Easter eggs in that some known for the comics folks and just some little stuff. There's even one for the Twin Towers in there that you could possibly miss if you don't look. But yeah, so this one, like I said, if you don't play on a Saturday, you probably wouldn't have noticed that. And I don't think too many people. Some people probably did, but who knows? Next up,
Audible announced The Alliances, a Trick of Light podcast, which is one of Stan Lee's final projects. The podcast has a June release date for a new fictional podcast called Alliances, a Trick of Light, co-created by Lee, telling the story of an unlikely friendship, superheroes, and our growing dependency on technology.
So that'll be on Audible, like you said, next month. And if you're so inclined, check that out. Next up, Adidas rolling out Thanos sneakers designed by Jen Bartel, who also designed the Captain Marvel sneakers that we talked about probably a week or two ago. Actually, probably been more than that. Probably about 3-4 weeks ago. Another thing about it.
Like coinciding with the movie.
Right. So the $150 limited edition sneakers will be available at footlocker.com beginning Friday, April 26th, which is gone already, which means those shows are probably already gone.
Yep.
And would have been sold on a first come, first served basis at the flagship Foot Locker store in New York and LA. So if you missed out on them, you missed out on them.
Yep.
Moving right along.
All right, next up, artists have been switched for as Guardians of the Galaxy, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Luke Skywalker, and Jabba the Hutt. There's upcoming issues and solicitations. Luca Maresca is going to draw as Guardians of the Galaxy number 10, taking over for Matteo Loli. Maresca previously drew issues 4 and 5. Artist Todd Knock is going to draw Cosmic Ghost Rider Destroys Marvel History number 4 instead of the previously solicited Sean Crystal. Knock previously drew the series' second issue. And finally, in Star Wars Age of Rebellion, Luke Skywalker is going to be drawn by Stefano Landini and Scott Koblish, taking over for solicited artist Chris Sprouse, while Star Wars Age of Rebellion Jabba the Hutt will be drawn by Emilio Laizo, Marco Turini, and Roland Boshi, filling in for solicited artist Mark Lamming. No reason for these changes was given by the publisher.
Yeah, I keep saying I was going to do something on those Star Wars books. There's some that are worth reading and some that are not, especially those Age of Rebellion ones. But stay tuned if that's going to ever happen. Next up, Daredevil just turned his greatest frenemy over to the police. Speaking of one, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Actually, if you're watching the video, you can pretty much tell who it is. Yeah. So Frank Castle got turned into the police by Matt Murdock some kind of way.
Yep.
Turned them before.
Right. This was the cliffhanger. This was near the cliffhanger page. It was the next to last cliffhanger. There's a couple cliffhangers that were in the most recent issue of Daredevil.
Gotcha. Right on. Next up,
Star Wars. Yoda wanted to end the Jedi before Luke did, so that kind of makes sense. In Empire, we see that Yoda was basically the last Jedi running around, so kind of makes sense that he had done that on purpose.
Yeah, wanted to end it all. But this is basically, speaking of those Star Wars Age of Rebellion books, this is a part of one of the specials. There are a lot of those books. It's called The Trials of Dagobah, and yeah, this kind of harkens back to that. Speaking of, so I don't know, that one I haven't read yet, but I'm pretty sure I will at some point because there's a few of them I haven't read. I will say that Leia one's actually pretty good. If you want to know how she got that disguise she ends up with for Return of the Jedi, it's a good one. Anyway, speaking of Star Wars, why last week's Darth Vader comic is causing confusion. I had not read that book yet, but apparently it has something to do with if you're watching the video, the young lady that is basically fawning over Vader in this picture.
Okay.
That is what was the cause for controversy. From what I read, it's kind of likened, or at least I'm likening it like Harley Quinn to the Joker, where a lot of people were kind of all up in for that, when that relationship was not a good relationship at all, ever. But this seems to be kind of similar to that, from what I can tell.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like I said, I really read the issue and didn't want to really read the article all the way through just to get spoiled on it before I read it. But yeah, some people didn't too much care for that. So, and I guess with good reason. Next up.
All right. So we got a little bit of insight into how fans are going to be able to build their own droids at Disney Star Wars Land. So when fans arrive at Disney Parks' new Star Wars themed lands, they'll be able to build their own custom droids. Oh my gosh. Standing roughly 18 inches tall, these toys will be fully remote controlled. With additional upgrades, these droids will also be able to react to the park itself. My goodness.
So if you were the other week when we were talking about the Star Wars Celebration stuff, this might be talking about from there. In fact, yeah, Star Wars Celebration 19. So there was a video where they kind of went through, like there was a section where they kind of went through and showed this stuff, and it looks kind of cool. I look, hey, and they even give you a little pack to put them in. It's cool, and you can mix and match some stuff, and you can make your own. Come on, look, if you make your own lightsaber displays, of course a droid wouldn't be too far off,
right?
So yeah, I look forward to probably doing this one of these days where I would get to go to Disney World again. Next up, oh, is that me? David Marquez jumps from Marvel to DC. For exclusive contract, which means he and Bendis are back together again.
Yay!
Yeah, I know, right? Sad we're gonna lose him at Marvel. But yeah, so Marquez has signed an exclusive contract with DC after 5 years with Marvel. Heat Revision first reported it. His tenure will begin with a relaunched. Well, I guess did I put that next to that? I did not. I should have put this closer to this. Relaunched Batman Superman ongoing, written by Joshua Williams, which I do have an article about, but I totally didn't put it next to this.
It's a shame Marquez is doing some bang up work on Avengers,
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, he will definitely be missed. And man, Marvel's losing a lot of folks, but at the same time, they're getting some new people with some chops.
Right.
But you still kind of hate to see, some of these people,
become exclusive. That's the thing. It's one thing to kind of go back and forth between the big two or even amongst the many publishers, but it's another thing entirely to have them go exclusive. Obviously, they benefit, the respective creators benefit from exclusive deals by becoming full-time employees. They get benefits and insurance or whatnot. That's obviously in their benefit, in their favor.
Lord, I love that right now.
Right. So ultimately, we understand that as individuals, but from the creative side, from the fan side, it's pretty tough to see these creators kind of being restricted in a sense to one company over all the others.
Yep. Ow.
Speaking of that other company, DC finally reveals the full truth behind Krypton's destruction. Thank you, Bendis, for telling us the story we didn't need.
This is not Bendis, actually.
It's not, because I thought it was the Rugol Czar guy that he created.
Well, according to this, yeah. So, wait. So this is, but this is spoilers for Supergirl. So I guess what started and what Bendis did, it kind of fleshed out here.
Okay.
Basically in Supergirl, which I don't think any of us are reading, so to kind of
gotcha.
Is what it is. But hey, you can if you want to read on that, Supergirl 29. There you go, which I think is already out. Yep. Next up, Detective Comics powers comic book sales to positive March Q1 2019. So Detective 1000, which was a $10 book, did some numbers. Surprise. And led sales for the month and I guess the quarter, followed by The Batman Who's Last, The Grim Knight #1, and Doomsday Clock #9. And Amazing Spider-Man 17 was like 7th, and blah 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 blah. So yeah, I guess Detective did some work, did some numbers. And going back to something we just touched on,
Batman Superman relaunch is going to find and fight the Secret Six heroes who have turned evil. So that's the series that Williamson pitched Dave Marquez on, and it's going to find a new version of the Secret Six led by the Batman Who Laughs. And, it's part of his massive plan since his introduction in DC Knights Metal.
I was going to say that Gail Simone must be rolling over in her chair, but no. Well, yeah, that's the thing that's going to happen. Some more sad news. Heroes in Crisis writer Tom King has received death threats over issue number 8. We talked about it, so we talked about the issue itself earlier.
Right.
It's hard to get into all that, but come on, people, stop being stupid. It's a comic book. Chill.
That's pretty lame, guys. Pretty lame. Next up in
Calm down.
Weird news.
Yeah.
Milestone co-founder Michael Davis is not dead. His social media was hacked.
Yes. So the same day that John Silver's Singleton was prematurely pronounced dead, so was Michael Davis, of Milestone. But one of them turned out to be actually, not actual, and this was that.
Right.
So yeah, so apparently he woke up Monday morning and saw a bunch of stuff about his death, and he called Bleeding Cool, who was the one who called BC being BC. Always, not fact checking their own shit. Anyway, called him up and said, "Hey, I ain't dead." And they retracted the story, or they updated the story, actually. So, folks, get your facts straight before you put stuff out trying to kill people prematurely. That's not cool at all. Not even, well, no matter. I'm even going to make a joke. It's partially why I don't use them anymore for news, or that much anymore for news. But that's a whole another story. Let us move on. Thankfully, he's still alive and kicking.
All right, you got next.
Some more sad news of an actual death. Lone Wolf and Cub writer Kazuo Koike passes away.
Yeah, this is really sad news.
It very much is, yeah, because obviously a lot of people know him from Lone Wolf and Cub. The series that what brought forth Samurai Shogun. Shogun
Assassin. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, that movie, which is loosely based off of Lone Wolf and Cub, and had a couple of other movies behind it. But nevertheless, most people knew him for Lone Wolf and Cub and the other stuff that he has done.
Right, he did Crying Freeman. He did. There's a couple of other manga that he is well known for, and he'd been writing up until relatively recently. So that's pretty sad and unfortunate that he's now passed.
Right, and I'm going to take this time to mention, which I'll mention the rest of this later on, but there is an article in the clickbait section called "Remembering Lone Wolf and Cub," creator Kazuo Koike from Barnes and Noble. Weirdly enough, that basically goes through some of the stuff he's been through, and I'm sure probably links to stuff that is still on sale that is in English. So you can check it out at your leisure. As a matter of fact, there's a couple of other clickbait section stuff, but I'll do that after we finish the rest of this stuff.
Yep.
Next up,
I got this one. Transformers #1 is returning with the second printing. That's the most recent IDW relaunch of Transformers.
Yes, and we've talked about that in previous episodes of. In fact, I totally forgot to read that because the 4th issue came out this week. But nonetheless, as I said in our back channel, okay, that issue was decent. I didn't think it was that great to get a second printing, but hey, it did numbers. Congratulations.
There you go.
It promises a fresh take, which I guess, a bold new era, it says, but I think they just took it back in time a few 100 million years, as I think I have said, talking about the first issue. But anyway, the second printing is slated for June 5th. So if you didn't get it the first time, you can get it now or get it then.
Right.
So I'm still waiting for that story to kind of, well, actually, I shouldn't say that because that's all right. It's going all right. Anyway, Pop Pez Thundercats are coming soon, which I need to send this article to somebody. I think I did already when I gave it out. But so yeah, if you are a fan of Pez and Thundercats, guess what? You are about to get your dreams. So as you can see by the picture, there's a Lino one and a Mum-Ra, a transformed Mum-Ra, there one from Funko. Which hey, thank you for sponsoring. There's also a Golden Girls one, which I'm pretty. I have some cousins who would love that. I think. Anyway, that's the thing. It's happening. Next.
All righty. Next up, DST. So Diamond Select Toys is bringing back B9 Lost in Space Bot,
AKA Robbie the Robot.
Okay.
No.
From
Well,
the original Lost in Space.
It's not Robbie. Well, there was a similar version that was called Robbie the Robot. If I'm not mistaken, that was used elsewhere, but B9.
Okay.
Yes, Danger Will Robinson. Danger, that robot.
I got you.
Yes. So yeah, apparently there's two different versions that's going to be out. So yeah, if you're a fan of Lost in Space, and have at it, folks. And also put that in there because I think there was an actual Lost in Space comic book that was out. So there's through line here. A new Star Trek Discovery comic will address what happened after that game-changing season 2 finale, which I have not seen. So, but I've seen people talking about it online. One of these days, I actually get caught up to watch it, and I will let you know my thoughts on it. I've seen a couple of episodes, though. It's pretty good. That's all I can say. Next up.
Dark Horse Comics has announced Tommy Gun Wizards will be the first comic written by Eisner Award-winning artist Christian Ward.
Not to be confused with Jukebox Heroes or Tommy.
Well, exactly. So they're not going to play a mean pinball. There you go.
Yeah, and I think there's that actually they might have said that in this article somewhere. But yeah, so basically this sounds like this is well, again, it's Christian Ward who's writing. So this is an interesting trend we're having where artists are starting to write. Actually, this is not a new trend because I mean it's been happening for the last couple of years. So this ought to be interesting. But basically the crux of the books is about Elliot Ness and the Untouchables, not the movie version. The actual, yeah. So I don't know. I might have to check it out. So, and as you can see, the cover that was done by Declan Shelby. So next up,
wait. This is it you or me?
That's me. I got it.
Okay.
The Eisner Award-winning surreal superhero series returns with a new omnibus collection, and that is Bob Burden's Flaming Carrot Comics. I have heard of this book in whispers. I've never actually seen them.
Really?
Yes.
I've seen plenty.
Yeah,
I know people that I just never read it. Yeah.
I've not read it. Yeah. So, but he's getting an omnibus, 400 pages, and it will be out. It will be 416 pages. We'll collect Flaming Carrot 1 to 2, 4 to 11, 26 to 27, and will retail for $24.99 on September 18th of this year. So have at that, folks. Next up,
Image Comics swept the Eisner Awards Best New Series category. So the 2019 Eisner nominations were kind to Image Comics, which earned a collective 30 nominations for comics released this past year, and set a new record with their Eisners in the process. So a whole bunch of them in the Best New Series category were nominated from Image Comics.
Keep your Eisners on the prize. Terrible. But yeah, most notably Man Eaters, which is a series I need to finish back. I'm into catch up on, and Skyward, which is another series I was also reading that I need to catch up on, and I think that came out this week. Both of those are actually pretty good from what I've read. Next up, Starburns Industries Press goes digital, launches 3 digital first comedy series on May 1st, which was this week, and one of those, which happens to be Dirk's Click of the Week, Invasion from Planet WrestleTopia.
Okay.
And the two others, Griffin, Galaxy Most Wanted, and Long Ago and Far Away, are united by SBI's mandate of funny, strange, sad, beautiful. Each limited series will later be collected from paperback, but fans can read them early on Comixology and preview them in Starburns Presents SBI's 2019 Free Comic Book Day book offering, which is coming up. We'll talk about that in a minute again. So yeah, that was the thing. Apparently, Dirt liked, no surprise, the wrestling one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's two others. So last but not least,
Mark Waid has asked the court to dismiss Mayer's lawsuit after the Antarctic Press deposition. So apparently some new facts have come to light, and Wade's team has moved to dismiss the case brought by Meyer for interfering with his business dealings with Antarctic Press. Go stick it somewhere, Meyer.
Yes, and despite the opinions on one of our co-hosts, I'm glad this is, fuck Meyer, basically, who is one of those Comic Gate folks who operated under the Diversity in Comics Twitter.
Misnomer. It's a misnomer.
It's very much a misnomer. So if you've ever come across that account, you should definitely block it.
Stay away. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
So that is that, and we are at the end of the show. But like I said before Age 70 does the last ad read and we get out of here for the night, let me call attention to a couple other clickbait section jobbies. This one you might want to keep for the treasure gem position as well, but there's a bunch of Easter eggs. No surprise, that was in Avengers Endgame. I won't show that one. And of course, there's an article about at the very least one sequence that you should watch before going into Avengers Endgame, if you haven't seen it by now. And of course, there is the aforementioned article on remembering Kazuo Koike, which is a pretty good read, and also, like I said, links to stuff that you could buy from Barnes and Noble. So yeah, right. But last but not least, there is one. Your boy Roddy Cat was on another podcast. Someone else actually let them on a podcast. Some pretty awesome people. Sherry's Joy and an awesome Rob let me on their Casual Conversations podcast. We did a lot of content on that one. I think because we recorded one night, and I think we got like 3 shows out of it. Maybe two, definitely, possibly 3 shows out of it. We talked a lot. So if you are,
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Anyway, look, I know I have a tendency to go on and on. So it is part of my charm. That one was partially not my fault, though. I will say that. But if you want to check that out, please go for it and do it and tell them I sent you. It was actually a good time. I had been drinking, but not enough to be, whatever.
That's funny.
But it was a good time, and I enjoyed being on there. Hopefully, they'll have me on again.
Alrighty. So, all right. So we're gonna wrap with our last ad of the night, and then we're gonna do our closing notes and credits. Our last ad of the night is for Blue Apron's meal delivery service. Blue Apron, fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron, always shipped free right to your home. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today.
And we come to the end of the show, and before I sneeze and hurt myself really much so I can get up out this darn chair, I will say that again this Saturday, free comic book day. Go to your local comic book shop. Go check them out. Buy something.
It's easy to remember the date this year because it is also Star Wars Day, May 4th.
And yes, exactly, which I was also going to mention. So yeah, go. I'm pretty sure they'll have. I know there's a free previews, Star Wars preview book on Comixology you can go check out, and there's also that DC villains thing that is also free on comic books. But that has nothing to do with Free Comic Book Day. But I'm sure they will have some stuff surrounding that stuff. And I know the Free Comic Book Day stuff goes on Comixology probably a couple of weeks after. But nevertheless, go to your local comic book shop. Don't just grab the free stuff and leave. Go get a couple of books or something.
Right. Listen, pick up something that's related to something you watched in the theaters. Maybe it's a tie-in to Endgame or one of the prequel issues that Marvel,
or a Star Wars toy or something, yeah.
Or a copy of the original trade for Infinity Gauntlet. Because guess what? It's still in print. It's still one of the best-selling things out there. Pick that up.
Or a Transformer, because a lot of comic book shops sell Transformers now.
Right. You can pick up Captain Marvel comics. You can pick up trade paperbacks based on that. There's some Spider-Man Far From Home comics that are out now as prequels for the upcoming movie. You don't have to stick to the movies, but it's a great place to start, especially if you are not up on what's happening in the current publishing plans of these companies. So, just remember, you got to help support our local comic shops here in New York. We've lost a couple of notable shops already, so we're trying to keep the ones that we do have from going under and trying to support as best we can.
And here where I am in South Carolina, we've lost a few of them. In fact, the ones that, a while ago, the one I used to frequent that was close to my house is gone. Most of the other ones that have been around for a while, I think the one I'm going to now is pretty much the longest. Even it had kind of had a minute, but it closed and come back, and now it's probably one of the last ones standing in town.
Right.
So we gotta help them out, keep them open. Keep them serving the community, as my comic book shop guy says. So that is that. Like I said, go forth, have some fun on that day. May the 4th be with you, and go grab you some comics and whatnot from the show, from the thing. And remember, they have to pay for that free stuff. Which is why we say, go in there, buy something. All right, and folks, and that is it for tonight. Keep a lookout on the Twitters we hope to get you a treasure edition for Avengers Endgame.
Right, because if you can't tell, I was going to say, if you can't tell from Roddy Cat's hesitancy in heeding my wishes to avoid completely Avengers Endgame spoiler free, we are chomping at the bit to talk about it. So we would definitely like to get this out sooner rather than later. So please look out on the internets, on all our social media. We will be announcing. We're going to try to get as many of our co-hosts on as possible, because apparently we all watched the movie.
Yes, and some might be going back to watch it again.
So, just be on the lookout for that. We're all looking forward to it. If you have any questions that you want us to talk about, contact us via DM or on Twitter or something.
Yeah, hit the Twitters. We're there. Nevertheless, we come to the end of another exciting episode of this here Comic Book Chronicles. I have been Roddycat, and you can find me at Roddycat on the Twitters and the Instagrams. Also, News Nerds Need on Twitter, News Nerds Need Reddit, and CB Caps on Instagram.
Oop. A little early.
It works. Agent _70 on Twitter and Instagram. PCN_dirt on the Twitters, Pop Culture Net on the Twitters, popculturenetwork.com, and there's umbrella of sites therein. And of course that new Vine thing that's coming out called Byte. Also Tim DOGG98 on the Twitters, BClick Nation on Twitters at DKLIQ NATION, theclicknation.com. Got to make sure you get that right. And also comic book resources where he's writing his face off. You heard us talk about a couple of the articles we has written tonight. In fact, I think there is another one in the clickbait that I might have didn't mention. But nevertheless, it's all there. You will get the show notes when the show comes out. I need to stall for a second while I put this back up. But folks, thank you again for coming out. We will be back same time next week. Well, we'll probably be back for this right.
Be on the lookout for the Treasury Edition, and we should be back at our regular time with the regular show next week.
Exactly. And for that, this is the Click Nation. We're out. Peace.
Peace.
Would you believe it's Dr. Doom?
What's on your evil mind?
Oh, you insulting tongue and mock my words well.
How about this rumor that you are really hired, Mr. Stark?